All right, so last class we built our unit circle with our paper plate. I tried to mimic the colors there. If I have yellow and pink backwards, I apologize. I'm doing this from home, paper plate at school. Um, but now, what does this unit circle mean and what can we use it for? So, if we think about that unit circle and think about the first quadrant, so the positive quadrant over here, okay, and we think about that quadrant and we think about what the triangle looks like. All of the triangles look similar to this, where the acute angle is right here. All right, so we think about this like a triangle where this distance here is x, the height is y. And then we also think about SOHCAHTOA. So if sine is the opposite over hypotenuse, that means that sine is y over r. Well, for the unit circle, r is always 1. So sine is just the y value, whatever that y value is at that point. Okay? Cosine works the same way. Adjacent over hypotenuse is x over r. In the unit circle, r is 1. So it's just the x value on the unit circle. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. What's also nice about that, we will learn more about it later, but notice that the y value is the same thing as sine, and the x value is the same thing as cosine. This is an identity that we will learn later, and it looks like my laptop has timed out. Give me just a second. All right, updated. And so, like I was saying, this is an identity that we're going to learn later. So if you just already put those connections together, it'll make life easier later. All right, and remember that cosecant is always the reciprocal of sine. So this, in this case, it'd be 1 over y. Secant would be 1 over x. And cotangent would be x over y. Okay. So what does that look like? That looks like, hey, if I were to ask you what is sine of 150 degrees, you go to your unit circle over here. You look at 150 degrees. Well, sine is the y value, and the y value is 1/2. So sine of 150 degrees is 1/2. All right, so what does this mean for sines? Well, everything in quadrant 1 is always positive, so no worries. Quadrant 2, we have this written on our unit circle somewhere. Quadrant 2, all the x values are negative and all the y values are positive. So that means that sine is the y value, so that's positive. Cosine is the x value, so that's negative. Tangent is the 2 divided, and a positive divided by a negative is negative. Okay. Quadrant 3, we have negative, negative. So negative sine, negative cosine. But a negative divided by negative makes tangent positive. And then this last quadrant over here, quadrant 4, is positive, then negative. So that means that sine is negative because it's the y value. Cosine is positive. And then if I divide those, I get a negative. So tangent is negative. Notice that all the reciprocals also fall in that same category. So whatever the main trig function was, its reciprocal is as well. Okay, this is where the bulk of the work comes, and I'm not going to go over every single one of these in the video. So what you're going to do is get the main idea of it, and then fill in the rest of the table on your own, and then open the class notebook where it will all be filled in for you to check your answers to make sure that you got them right, so that our video is not any longer than it has to be. Okay. So let's do 30 degrees all the way across. Sine and cosine are easy. Sine is 1/2 because the y value is 1/2. So if you need to put a y there and an x here, and a y divided by x. All right. And then square root of 3 over 2 is cosine. Okay. Now, here's where bulk work comes into play. So tangent of y over x means 1/2 divided by square root of 3 over 2. That means 1/2 times its reciprocal. The 2's will cancel, so I get 1 over square root of 3. But if you recall, it is not proper to keep the radical in the denominator. So I have to rationalize to get square root of 3 over 3 for tangent. That is why I'm not making this whole video super duper long. I want you to do the math to figure that part out. All right, cosecant is if I flip sine. So remember, it's 1 over y. So if sine is 1/2, flipping that, it becomes 2. For secant, it becomes 2 over square root of 3. But notice I wrote that where I did on purpose, but I still don't like it there. So I'm going to do it over here. 2 over square root of 3. I still have to rationalize again. So I get 2 square root of 3 over 3 as secant. Okay. And then for cotangent, I'm going to go back to this right here before I rationalized. Because if I take the rationalized and then I do the reciprocal of that, I'm going to have to rationalize again. Instead, I'm going to take the reciprocal of what I highlighted over there. And the reciprocal of that is just square root of 3. Okay. Same idea for all the others. Make sure to go into the class notebook and check your answers when you're finished. One last thing, there are some special things that happen with this page here. So what about at 0 and 90 and 180 and 270? So sine at 0 degrees is the y value. Cosine is the x value. But tangent is y divided by x, which is 1 divided by 0. I'm totally doing this in the wrong column. My brain is on 90 degrees and I'm actually at 0 degrees. So those numbers that I was placing go under 90 degrees because that was the one I was focused on. So I'll highlight that to make sure that we're all on the same page because I was not. All right. 1 divided by 0 is not possible, so we say it is undefined. Okay. And for cosecant, the reciprocal of 1 is just 1. The reciprocal of 0, you need to think about it as 0 over 1. So the reciprocal would be 1 over 0, which is not possible. So it is undefined. So let me put that 0 over 1 up here. Think about 0 as being 0 over 1. My internet is apparently super lagging tonight. I hope that all the voice stuff is coming out good or okay. All right, and then cotangent, if I flip 1 over 0, it becomes 0 over 1, and that is 0. Again, fill out the rest of these and you will be finished. Make sure that you understand that if I look up sine of 45 degrees, I would look at my unit circle. So scrolling back up, the y value on the unit circle would be square root of 2 over 2. See if you can do the other two and then check your answer in the notebook. And you're going to pause here and play a game.